why Alabama 5? I mean, if we're sitting here saying they might not have the resume for it, and we're sitting here and saying that they're not going to play in the SEC championship game, we're virtually as sure of that. Then why are they above the team that will most presumably be your Pac-12 champion? Are we getting a hint that, hey, Pac-12 championship, you better be pretty damn good and compelling to get in there? Because we're assuming LSU at Georgia might not make it, right?
Yeah. Well, I think when you heard Rob Mullins talk on the committee last night, he was talking to us, Rich, and he said a big deal. He said, we judge these games as of right now. He said Alabama went out and smacked around Mississippi State this past week, and they looked great doing it. Well, Tua was a part of that. So I think they're judging the committee and the teams on what they see right now. And listen, I think you could make a case, Rich. Oregon's best win is a loss to Auburn. I mean, if you want to point to stuff, that's what everybody points to. They had that game in hand. They played well. They should have won that game, but they didn't. Aside from that, they beat the Washington and Washington State teams by 6-7 points combined. So I think Utah obviously losing to USC is a big deal. Alabama at this point lost to LSU. I mean, they lost 46-41 with their quarterback being hobbled in probably 70%, 60% of what he normally is in a pretty competitive game. So I think that's what the committee's looking at right now, and that's what Rob Mullins intimated to us last night.
And how big was that Oklahoma comeback on Baylor? I mean, that was unbelievable.
Rich, the thing to me is how they did it, okay? This wasn't Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield spinning bean all over the yard and making big-time plays. Lincoln Riley is a smart enough coach to understand, like, listen, I'm not the same team. Jalen Hurts is not that guy that can do that. What am I going to do? I'm going to run him 25, 30 times, and I'm going to wear out Baylor because Baylor kept they kept playing very conservative in the back end, and all they did up front was continue to stand people up, move people around. You had to run the football to beat Baylor that night. Lincoln Riley and them had to be conservative. They played ball control. Their defense played right at the right time. But I tell you what, Rich, it's a great win for Oklahoma, but the Big 12 is in trouble. I mean, I can't even paint a scenario where the Big 12 gets back in this over the next couple weeks and gets in a college football playoff position.
Well, you just stole my next question out of my mouth, because it just seems here again that the way it's all set up, assuming Ohio State wins out, Clemson we know won't get touched unless something shocking happens. Let's put it that way with Clemson or even LSU. Even if LSU loses to Georgia in the SEC championship game, we're assuming they're going to get in, even if it is a close loss, which would seal out both the Pac-12 and Big 12 champions. So I was going to ask you, assuming one of them gets in, which one would you say gets in, Pac-12 or Big 12 champ?
I think the Pac-12 has the best chance. If Georgia wins, it kills the Pac-12 and the Big 12. But Utah and Oregon sitting 6 and 7, and the opportunity to play each other in several weeks down the road and make a statement and become a champion of your league is a huge deal. But you know what you can't have? What the worst thing that could possibly happen would be Ohio State losing to Minnesota. Like, imagine LSU beating Georgia and then Minnesota beating Ohio State. What the heck are you going to do? Like, Clemson's in. Georgia's in. Minnesota has to be in the college football playoff. Now it comes down to LSU and Ohio State. Like, that would be my kind of selection Sunday, the last week of the season if we got some craziness. But, that would also put a lot of conferences at jeopardy, and it's obviously the Pac-12 and the Big 12. But the Pac-12 is definitely in a better position than the Big 12.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.